Coming up, Time Warner is on a roll, with much of the credit being given to the show Game of Thrones and Donald Trump.
Your best stock option. This is the WBBM Noon Business Hour.
Several interesting items from the media sector today, including a milestone that's coming for Hulu and the Trump effect on CNN and CBS. We're joined by Tim Hanlon, Managing Director at FTI Consulting in Chicago. Good afternoon, Tim.
Hi, Cisco. How are you?
I'm doing well. I am tempted to begin with Donald Trump, and I guess we will. Apparently, he's pretty good for the media business, isn't he?
Well, it's certainly no secret that he has done a tremendous job of getting basically free and persistent coverage from most of the major news outlets, and in many respects has actually eschewed the need for actually buying political advertising, at least up until this point. I think it's a pretty interesting speculation going forward now that the general election seems to be becoming more focused, where actual advertising dollars may actually come into the marketplace with his candidacy as the presumptive nominee from the Republican side.
And you have Time Warner and also CBS, parent company of news radio WBBM, both saying that revenue is up and pointing, at least in part, to Donald Trump, especially when you're talking about CNN.
Well, CNN obviously, as a 24/7 news channel, not unlike the others, needs to feed the beast, and part of that is ongoing coverage, and part of it clearly is also an ongoing engaged constituency that wants to hear and be part of all the things that are leading up, and that's good for advertising, including issue-oriented advertising as well as candidacy. I think. You also look at a CBS, which is very exposed in a positive way to local advertising, and at least in the primary world, CBS and every other TV station owner and group out there has benefited by a very strong local political advertising cycle, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out further as the general election gets underway.
Another thing that Time Warner is crediting with its income growth is Game of Thrones. Does that just show you how when you're talking about pay TV, just one really hot show could really make a difference?
Well, look, I think Time Warner is also very strong not only on the HBO and Game of Thrones front, but also their cable networks are very strong in comparison to lots of other cable networks. So TBS and TNT, with their coverage of the NCAA basketball tournament, and they continue to be very strong with NBA coverage and lots of very strong original comedy and dramatic programming. So, in many respects, the Turner Network's component of Time Warner is a very, very strong, you could almost call it premium programming asset or set of assets that looks very compelling when we talk about how those networks get distributed in the months and years to come, and it's not just through a cable subscription anymore, right? It could be through an online subscription service, a la Hulu, et cetera. They're in a very strong position content-wise, HBO and otherwise, the Turner Time Warner family is.
Yeah, Hulu is now, it's been rumored for a while. Now they've announced that they are looking at going to probably around a $40 a month cable-like bundle of channels. What kind of an impact is that going to have on some of these companies that have been making money specifically off of the cable model?
Well, it's a very good question, and I think a lot of things have yet to play out. But it's pretty clear that most average consumers are starting to recognize that they have truly more choice as to how to access the television and video content that they want, and it's not just through one or two different providers anymore per se. I think we call this, or I call this, distribution straddling, and basically it's if you're a broadcaster or you're a classic cable network or you're a TV or a movie studio, you have now literally in the last couple of years some very strong alternate ways to distribute your content, and it may not just be the classic way you've normally gotten to the consumer. And for folks like Time Warner, et cetera, it's maybe the first time that they've ever been able to directly go to a consumer without going through an intermediary like a cable operator to get to the consumer and charge maybe more efficiently and maybe more directly to the consumer and have a relationship with that consumer. That's a pretty interesting opportunity, and it's certainly a very difficult transition for folks who have done it more classically and more traditionally.
Yeah, in the end, maybe a chance to make more money. Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Tim Hanlon, Managing Director at FTI Consulting here in Chicago.